Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, the supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, why does my pee smell after I eat asparagus? Good question. So when we take in not just foods like asparagus, but spicy foods, garlic, very dark fibrous greens, asparagus being one of them, spinach being one of them, you might notice a very distinct smell in your urine. Okay. Now, this is because of the way that the body digests those amino acids in those types of foods. Okay. So it creates a very sulfurous chemical smell, right? There's nothing to be alarmed about, though. It's just the way that our body breaks down these types of foods. Okay, so there's amino acids in all foods, but in foods that are very strong, like in case like the spicy foods, for example, the way that our body breaks them down, it's just differently than the way, say, your body would break down a bowl of oatmeal, right? So the way your body breaks it down turns into like that sulfurous chemically smell, and it's a very distinct smell, and it's very potent, right? It's very strong. So it's not uncommon, though. It's very common. Now, can you do anything about it? Not really. No, it's there to stay. But luckily, once you flush the toilet, the smell's gone. Okay. But I have a lot of people who compete in fitness competitions who like to have asparagus in their diets, and they notice that as well. Okay. So it's nothing to be alarmed about. It's very common. If it bothers you, you can try switching to another type of green. You know, like I said, spinach sometimes will have that same effect, but foods like green beans, for example, not so bad. Broccoli, not so bad. So it's just trying to figure out which foods, will cause those issues. It's like certain foods that give you more gas than other foods, right? And a lot of fibrous greens will actually give you some gas as well. Same with eggs, right? So that's very common, egg whites. So it's just the way your body breaks down the amino acids. But again, it's nothing to be alarmed about. It doesn't mean that the foods that you're eating are bad, or doesn't mean there's something wrong with your digestive system. It's just the way your body breaks down those particular amino acids. Okay, that creates that very distinct, potent smell. All right, next question. Nick, what advice would you give to someone who is just starting to work out in the gym? Uh, Block out the noise and try to stay in your own lane. Okay. And what I mean by that is if you're someone who is completely new to the gym and you're looking to work out and you are choosing not to hire a personal trainer, which I think is actually a big mistake a lot of people do. I think a lot of people, when you first start working out, especially for the first few weeks to months, you should be working with a personal trainer just so he or she can teach you how to perform proper form and execution on certain exercises. And then along the way, you could pick up some stuff on your own and then always go back to that trainer again after a couple of months and say, hey, can you teach me some more stuff? Now, if you cannot afford to work with a personal trainer, you're relying on the internet. Well, you've got to be very careful because there's a lot, as much as there's good advice out there, there's just as much, if not more, bad advice out there. And I see that all the time. I see these so-called TikTok fitness gurus out there giving people advice on supplementation and dietary nutrition and training programs. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is terrible advice. Okay. So if you're someone, for example, who's 50 years old and you just started this new year going to the gym and you're taking advice from someone who's 17 or 18 years old because they got a great physique, that person might have a great physique, but they also have youth on their side. So they can get away with squatting with shitty form or bouncing the bar off themselves when they're doing bench presses, right? They can get away with eating Pop-Tarts and crappy foods. But if you follow that, you're not going to get the same results. If anything, you're probably going to break something, tear something, or add on more weight, potentially get diabetes. So you have to be very careful as to where you're getting this information from. You have to filter through the good and the bad. So my recommendation is do your research. Try to stick with one or two people that you like to follow online who are certified, they're educated, they have experience. So, they know how to problem solve and troubleshoot through certain injuries too. So for example, if you're someone who has a physical limitation or a disability, you might want to follow someone that who has a degree in kinesiology, who can help you move past that, or work around that. So my recommendation is to block out as much noise as you can, stay in your own lane. And if you are going to take advice, try to just filter in on one or two people that you respect in the industry and that you actually will take that advice and use it to benefit yourself. Okay. So that's my recommendation, because unfortunately now there's so much noise out there. There's so much distractions out there. It's really hard to focus. I was very lucky because when I first got in the industry, I didn't have the internet available to me. So, I mean, everything I learned was from in the gym. I was fortunate because I got to train with a lot of bodybuilders who taught me how to train. But I'd also read. So I'd read books, I'd read magazines on exercises, right? I talked about how I read the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia of Exercises front to back, and that's like a 700-page book. And I've read that book 3 or 4 times easily. But it allows you to get to regain that wealth of knowledge. So it's good because everything I learned, there was no distractions. These days, it's very hard to shut off the noise. So, like I said, try your best, stay in your own lane, pick 1 or 2 people, preferably a trainer that you respect, that has knowledge and experience, that can teach you how to perform the exercises properly, and then go with that. That's my recommendation. All right, next question. Nick, how do you balance your fitness goals with other aspects of your life, such as work and family commitments? I treat them just as important as work and family commitments, if not more, because you have to look at fitness as a long-term investment. So if you're someone who makes really good money, you're making $5-6 million a year, but you don't take care of your health, okay? You don't go to the gym, you don't follow a clean diet, you do nothing for your cardiovascular activity whatsoever, you're going to have health problems later on in life, if not earlier, but you're going to have health problems. So you make all this money when you're young, and then when you get into your 50s, 60s, 70s, you're experiencing all these conditions, maybe with your heart, maybe you have muscular problems, you can have chronic lower back pain, all kinds, you can have diabetes, all these problems that can happen over time from living a very sedentary and unhealthy lifestyle. So it doesn't make sense to me to prioritize your work before your health. And then the same thing when it comes to family commitments. I mean, your family should be supportive of your health and fitness. So if anything, if you have to not cancel a family commitment, but if you're like, I can't meet you at 4 or 5 o'clock, I'm going to come at like 6 or 7 o'clock because I've got to get my hour workout in. Or no, I can't meet you today. Same with social life, right? I can't meet you today because I didn't get my gym session in. I have to prioritize my health. Anyone who supports and loves you will understand that. So for myself, I treat my fitness just as important as I would with anything else in life, whether it's my relationships or whether it's my work obligations. My fitness is just as important, if not more. Because again, it's a long-term investment. So for people who are prioritizing their work over their health, are prioritizing their social life over their health, in my opinion, they're making a very big mistake, and they're thinking short-term. They're not thinking long-term. So that's what I do. I always think long-term. And honestly, it keeps me going regularly to my workouts, and I'm consistent with my training, consistent with my diet, because I'm thinking long-term. All right, next question. Nick, what are some common misconceptions about weightlifting that you find yourself having to constantly debunk? Diet pop being one of them. Diet pop is not as bad as people think, right? I mean, I have a lot of people that will argue and say, oh, the aspartame. Listen, you're worse off having a regular Coke than a Diet Coke. You know how much sugar is in 1 can of regular Coke? Way more than you should be consuming in 1 day. It's like 32 grams of sugar. So for those people who, I'm just bringing this up because I'm drinking a Diet Pop right now. For those people who are on the Diet Pop is bad for you, Madam, again, I'm saying you have a glass of Diet Pop a day. I have seen nothing wrong with that. Now, if you're drinking 2-3 liters of Diet Pop a day, you have got a problem, right? But honestly, and I've talked about this before, you would have to consume like a room full of aspartame to really have some health ramifications from that. So don't worry too much about Diet Pop. So there's one misconception, right? But there's tons. Another misconception is that weightlifting will make you look bulky. Not true. Eating a shitty diet will make you look bulky. Eating a shitty diet while going to the gym will make you look bulky because, yes, you're going to build muscle. But if you've got a layer of fat covering that muscle, guess what? You're going to look bulky. But if you're lean and in shape, you shouldn't look bulky. So lifting weights does not make you look bulky. So that's another misconception that tons of people think, right? Another misconception is people think they need to do cardio to burn fat. And I put out an episode last week on the Q&A telling people not to rely on cardio to burn fat. That is one of the most common misconceptions, that people constantly rely on cardio to burn fat when they should be relying on weight training to burn fat. Because again, the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn in a rested state. So again, it comes down to working smarter, not harder. Um, you know, God, there's so many misconceptions out there when it comes to weight training. A lot of people believe that people who weight train are very vain. Okay, sure, say that. But I'd rather be vain and in shape and healthy and feel confident in my body than someone who's walking around with a big belly and, lacks that confidence. And I have to catch my breath when I walk upstairs, or I don't feel confident when I take my shirt off. Like, I would never want to feel like that. So why wouldn't I work on my body? There's nothing wrong with a little bit of vanity. If I always tell people, if vanity gets you into the gym, great. That's a very good short-term goal to have. You know what I'm saying? I don't like the way I look when I'm naked. I don't like the way I look when I'm at the beach. I want to work on my physique. Great. That is fine. That's a good short-term goal. But I also remind people, you want to have a long-term goal, because vanity will only take you so far. So that long-term goal could be, when I'm in my 60s, in my 70s, I want to be able to keep up with my grandkids. I want to be able to enjoy my retirement, right? I don't want to have to be going to see the doctor every second day or once a week because I've got all these health problems. So that could be a long-term goal to add on to your short-term goal being vanity. So that's another misconception. I think a lot of people just think, oh, people who work out, they're vain. Not true. A lot of people who work out because, again, they look at the long-term investment. Okay. There's so many misconceptions out there, and I usually get one or two of them whenever I get a new client, but those are ones that come to mind. But God, like I said, there's misconceptions on a lot of things in life, but when it comes to weightlifting and your health, I promise you there are no negative side effects that can occur from taking up a weightlifting program and working out 3 to 4 times a week. None. All right. Next question. Nick, which fitness apps and tools do you recommend using for tracking progress? I'm old school, so I've always relied on the mirror and the scale. And I understand that there's always new fitness apps out there that will track your steps, and they'll track your calories, and they'll track your macros and all this stuff. And for those people, if it holds you accountable, I'm all for it. Okay. But for myself personally, I don't own an Apple Watch. Like, no, I never wear Apple Watches. I've never had a step counter. I don't need to count my macros or my calories. I just look in the mirror and go, am I getting soft? I need to back off my carbs. Or I might say to myself, I want to maybe lose a little bit of muscle mass because now I'm getting older. I don't want to carry all this muscle. So I'm actually trying to lose some muscle mass. So, okay, how do I do that? Do I change my training a little bit? Do I add in more reps, less rests, right? Lighter weights. So that's how I actually gauge my progress. And that's how I recommend most people gauge their progress. Of course, I have a coaching app, right? And it's not to do a shameless plug in here, but with my coaching app, I always tell my clients 2 things I'm looking for is, one, how you look in the mirror. That's number 1. Okay. And my second most important thing, how do you feel? So if someone's lost 3 pounds and they're like, yeah, but Nick, I feel like a 2 out of 10. I'm like, well, that's not good. So we need to give you more food, right? That's telling me that, you're lacking nutrients. If you're constantly feeling lethargic and it's not due to being stressed out at work or lack of sleep, then I know it's diet related. So I need to give the person more food. So what I always look for is how someone's looking, how someone's feeling, the scale to a degree, but I don't put too much emphasis on the scale because the scale can be kind of a mind fuck. Sometimes people will tell me, oh my God, I'm up 3 pounds. I'm like, right, but what did you have the day before? And I find out they had a cheat meal. Well, yeah, your weight's going to go up after a cheat meal from all the sodium and all the carbohydrates, going to retain water. So that's why I tell people be very careful with the scale, but the scale is definitely used as a guideline. But the top 2 things I look for when I'm working with a client online, when it comes to their nutritional plan, their training program, whether they're trying to gain muscle, lose fat, or do a combination of the 2, how do you look? How do you feel? Okay. And that's why, again, sometimes it helps to have a second set of eyes because we're always our own worst critics, right? I have clients that they'll always think badly of themselves. I'm like, are you kidding me? Look at the way you look. Your belt, like a lot of people, I tell them, look at how your clothes fit. And the belt is a huge example for men. A lot of my guys say to me, man, I'm on my last hole in the loop. I'm like, that's great. That's an indicator that you're actually losing body fat. Your waist is getting trimmer, right? And maybe your weight on the scale is not going down, but maybe the reason why your weight on the scale is not going down is because you're adding muscle mass. So you weigh more or you weigh the same, but your body composition is changing. So that's why I say just use the scale as a guide, but don't focus too much on that. But I've never been one to fall for those fitness apps or trackers or any of that stuff. Maybe I'm a little bit more old school, but I don't feel they're necessary. However, if they're helping to hold you accountable, by all means use them. I can't recommend one because I don't use one, nor do I recommend my clients use one, because I recommend they do the same thing I do, which is go by how you look, go by how you feel. And that right there should be enough. Okay. Nick, how do you balance the desire for progress with the importance of listening to your body and injuries? Very good question. Good questions coming in this week. So here's the thing, like this is where it comes back to long term. Okay. Of course, everyone wants to progress, right? That's why people go to the gym. They want to progress, right? I have very few people that say to me, I just want to maintain. I mean, some people want to maintain, but most people want to see results, right? It's like the same reason why you go to work. You go to work to make money. Eventually, you want to make enough money so you can hopefully retire, right? So you don't just work to get by. I mean, some people do, but most people, I would imagine, work because they want to get ahead in life, right? So same thing with the gym. You go because you want to progress. But what happens when you're dealing with an injury, right? Or what happens when you're dealing with a life crisis, right? Where maybe you can't give the gym your utmost amount of undivided attention, right? Maybe you miss a few workouts every few days. Maybe your diet's not the best. So what do you do? Like, how do you kind of gauge it? So the way I've always gone is long term. I mean, not every workout's going to be a good workout. There are some workouts I do and I reflect back and go, you know, that wasn't a good workout. I could have pushed myself more. I could have lifted more. I could have done more reps. But my head might not be in the game that day. And you have to be okay to accept that not every day is going to be a perfect day. And as long as you're thinking long term, as in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you should be able to remain on track, because it is important to listen to your body. And this is where it really becomes key to listen to your body. If you're dealing with a nagging injury, let's say you have a lower back injury, probably not a good idea to go in a gym and squat 315 pounds. With that being said, though, you know, maybe you can squat 135 pounds, or maybe you don't even squat that day, right? So that's where it comes down to becoming a non-ego lifter and listening to your body. Like I mentioned before on the channel, there's times if I'm scheduled to do a leg workout, and if I'm not feeling that leg workout, for some reason something's tight, my glute's tight, my back is sore, I just won't train legs that day, and I might train chest, and I'll train legs 2 or 3 days later. That's fine. So I listen to my body, right? And I think a lot of people don't listen to their body. They just go, oh, I'm either not going to do it, which is usually the worst thing you can do, or I'm going to do it and I'm going to still go in at 100%, right? And then you're going to injure yourself further. The reason I say not doing anything is the worst thing you can do is because most people, when they're injured, the first thing they do is, oh, I should rest. I'm like, okay, but where is the injury located? Is it lower body? Is it upper body? Let's say it's your quadricep. Let's say you strained your quadricep. Well, why does that stop you from going to the gym? Why does that stop you from training back? Why does that stop you from training chest? Why does that stop you from training shoulders, biceps, triceps, and abs? It doesn't. It might stop you from doing some lunges and some squats for a bit, but you might be fine doing some hamstring straight leg deadlifts, hamstring curls. Your hamstrings might be fine, right? So that's why I tell people, just because you're dealing with an injury doesn't necessarily mean it's game over and you have to just take multiple weeks off the gym. You just have to locate, okay, where's that injury? What's it preventing me from doing? Can I still do this? Yes. Can I do this? No. Okay, let's put a program together based on what we can do and cannot do based on our current injuries and physical limitations. Okay, so that's what I would recommend. Again, it comes down to thinking long term. Okay, because just because you have 1 or 2 shitty workouts, or just because you can't train one particular muscle group for, say, 1 week to 6 weeks, doesn't mean that you're going to regress. You can still progress. You just have to tweak your program and train strategically and intelligently. Okay. Next question. Nick, my right forearm on my pinky finger side hurts whenever I do barbell curls. What do you think this is? Okay, so when you're talking about your forearm, you have your forearm flexors and we have what we call your forearm extensors, okay? Now, on the pinky side, you have this tendon called your ulna, and the ulna goes all the way down your elbow into your bicep, okay? And that's a tendon. It's actually not, I don't know if you can see through the mirror, but when I move my pinky, you can actually see it moving, okay? Now, it's actually not a muscle, it's a tendon. And what happens is for a lot of people, they have problems with this, especially guys. Guys get very tight in the forearms, okay? Now, I'm a firm believer that one of the reasons a lot of people have this issue is because of their desk jobs. So they're typing a lot, right? This movement. And when you're typing a lot, what are you using? Pinky finger, overuse, okay? So what happens when you go to the gym, that's when you notice it because that tendon's been strained from you doing this for 6 to 8 hours a day. And now you go to the gym, put your arm in a fixed position and expect yourself to lift weights, right? In that fixed position, which you're trying to stimulate your bicep, but your forearm tendon is taking the bulk of the load because the tendon is so inflamed. So it's a very common issue. I see it a lot of times, not just with men, but with women too. Okay, so again, what can you do? There's a few things you can do. You can go for regular massage. Okay, so you can get an RMT to actually work on your forearm flexors and extensors. Trust me, this hurts. Whenever I've gone for massage, I'll get the RMT to work on my forearms for about 10 minutes and it's very painful, but it helps reduce the inflammation in that area. Because I mentioned this before, you have very little muscle between point A and point B. This is basically bone and tendon, right? Both sides, okay? So by you constantly using that area, you're going to inflame and strain that area, that tendon, right? Be like me asking you to do barbell curls for 6 to 8 hours a day. Well, you probably tear your bicep. Doesn't make sense, or you at least strain it. So it's the same thing you're doing on your forearms. You're straining them by typing, by just using your hands throughout the day. If you're someone who has an active job, you're carrying things, you are putting strain on your forearm extensors, carrying groceries, anything, you're putting strain on that area. So you don't want to stop doing barbell curls. Okay, so RMT is one way you can go about it. Another way you can go about it is add some topical on there on a daily basis. So something like Tiger Balm, Voltaren, just something to help, again, reduce that inflammation, okay? Another thing you can do is train your biceps from different angles. So if a barbell bothers you, maybe a dumbbell doesn't bother you, because if you're doing twisting dumbbell curls, you're twisting at the bottom of the movement, so that will take some pressure off the ulna and alleviate the strain in the tendon, okay? So that's another thing you could do is you could try different exercises from different angles for the biceps, make the biceps stronger, and then go back to doing barbell curls or anything that requires you to do a fixed position like an easy bar curl or even a cable straight bar curl, because those are the exercises that would probably bother it. But doing something like a hammer curl might be fine because you're doing an internal grip rotation, right? So adding in different exercises to stimulate the bicep, taking a break from doing strict motions like barbell curls, that will help as well, right? Because you can still stimulate the bicep without having doing heavy barbell or easy bar curls, right? There's other ways to hit the biceps. So that's another thing I would do. Okay, so you can look into the massage, you can look into the topical, hit the bicep from different angles, okay? And then finally, one of the things, and again, I recommend these all the time, the training grabbers. The one thing is with these training grabbers is they do give you wrist support. Now, if you don't want to wear grabbers or you don't want to wear lifting straps, you can just go on Amazon and you can actually buy wrist straps. They sell wrist straps to actually protect your wrist, which will take pressure off your carpal, your wrist, and your forearm extensors and flexors. So that's another tool that you have available to you, right? So right there, there's 4 solutions that you could try that will help alleviate that pain, okay? But my recommendation, don't keep going to the gym doing barbell curls because that's only going to make it worse, okay? So you have to fix the issue. And I would try one of those 4, if not all of those 4 techniques I just told you, and see what happens after, 6 to 8 weeks. Because again, the stronger you make your bicep, the less strain you're going to put on your forearm extensors. All right. Okay. A few more questions. Nick, I saw a recent video of Sylvester Stallone and he's looking jacked. How is this possible at 77 years old? Do you think he still uses steroids regularly? So one of the things you have to remember with guys like Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger, these guys made money off their bodies for decades, right? Going back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s. So of course they worked out regularly. They followed a fairly clean diet. Yes, they dabbled in anabolic steroid usage. I believe all of them have admitted they have used steroids at some point in their careers. How much? Who knows? Do I think they use as much as the bodybuilders in the IFBB stage competing? No. But I do believe that they were using a certain amount, most likely under a doctor's supervision. Now, for guys like Stallone and Schwarzenegger, who are now in their 70s, I imagine that at this point in their life, there's no reason for them to be taking massive steroid cycles, right? If anything, that's going to put a lot of pressure on their hearts, right? So they don't want to do that. So what are they doing? Well, because they most likely use steroids for the last 30, 40 years on a consistent basis, they can't just stop using certain steroids like testosterone. If you're taking testosterone injectable for 30 years straight and then all of a sudden you stop, your body's not producing testosterone naturally anymore. So you're going to have a very difficult time with not just libido, but energy levels. You could have side effects such as depression, right? All these negative side effects that can occur from very low testosterone levels. So you can't just stop. So that's why a lot of guys usually migrate onto TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, which basically what these guys are doing is they're just putting enough testosterone in their body to keep them like this. Some guys like to go a little bit more, so they feel like they did when they were in their 20s or 30s. But if you're doing proper TRT therapy, you're just doing enough that will keep your levels normal as if your body was creating testosterone naturally, right? So I imagine someone like Sylvester Stallone is on a TRT cycle at this point in his life. At 77, he'd be crazy to go on a massive steroid cycle right now. Risk heart attack, stroke. So not a good idea. And one of the things, and I know this is very common and very popular for a lot of celebrities, is HGH, human growth hormone. Okay. And that really helps with keeping the cells young, helps rejuvenate your cells. I'm not suggesting anyone go on this, but if you research more on human growth hormone, I don't want to give too much information on that because I don't want to sound like I'm promoting HGH, but it is known as like the fountain of youth drug. Okay. It's also very expensive. So we know with combinations of things like human growth hormone along with TRT, potentially a little bit of stem cell therapy as well to help, with those joints, those aging joints and tendons that these guys have. That's probably why Stallone is in the shape he's in today, in addition to following a fairly clean diet and workout routine. Because I guarantee you, these guys are still training every day, or at least every second day. I don't really follow Stallone, but I follow Arnold, and he's in the gym every second day, almost every day. He still trains. So it's something that they don't stop doing. Okay. So a lot of these guys are still following the bodybuilding lifestyle. They're still eating clean and they're still training every day. So you can't just say it's the steroids, or you can't just say it's the TRT or the growth hormone or the stem cell. They're putting in the work. Okay. So you got to give them a little credit. But that's why I imagine he looks the way he does. And honestly, I mean, 77 is not that old anymore. People are living to be 105, 110 now. So 77 is like 57 now, right? It's not that old. And yeah, he looks great. I haven't seen a recent video of him, but I assume he looks just as good as he did 5 years ago because he trains regularly. He watches his diet. Okay. That's the main reason why he looks the way he does. It's not just because of steroids. It's not just because of TRT. And it's not because of growth hormone or stem cell. Okay. He puts in the work. Okay. Last question. Nick, what do you think about a dating app designed specifically for people that work out? Do you think this would be something that people in your industry would be interested in? Yeah, I had this question come in on my Instagram the other day, and I thought it was an interesting question. Now, you're probably asking the wrong person because I don't use dating apps. Okay. I also personally don't like to date people in the fitness industry. If anything, I want to date someone who is not in the fitness industry, has nothing to do with the fitness industry. Okay. Because when I'm done work, I don't want to go home and talk about work. Okay. So that's just me though. I would imagine that some people want to have more common ground with their partner. So they do look for someone else who does like to work out, exercise, go for runs. So they have more common ground. I could see a dating app working really well for, fit singles, right? So if there's not one out there now, maybe there should be one. That could be a really good idea. You could have $1 million idea right there. I think there's dating apps like Tinder and was it Bumble? I think that's just for the general masses, right? But if you're someone who is looking for someone who is maybe into bodybuilding, right? And you want someone that's going to train with you regularly, I could see a lot of people being attracted to a dating app like that. Yes. Again, for myself personally, I tend to gravitate towards people who don't work out or who are not in the fitness industry. They work out, they exercise, but they're not necessarily doing bodybuilding every day, right? Because that's like my thing. So I don't know if it's something that I'd want to do with a partner. But again, I know there's a lot of partners that do like to train together, that do like to weight lift together, go to the gym together, like to go for runs together. So eat clean together. So I could see that being a very good idea to put out there. Um, I have to think, I mean, I have a lot of couples that train together. I don't know if they would want to, I'm just trying to think. They don't, I shouldn't say they train together. They train separately, but they train with me or they train with one of the trainers. So I might train the husband and one of my trainers, like Charlene, might train the wife, right? So I don't have many couples that actually necessarily train together, but they do train separately. But we do have some couples that do like to train together. So I think it just comes down to what's important to you. Do you want to have that as your common ground with your partner? A lot of people, I know a lot of couples that one person does go to the gym regularly, the other person doesn't. But yeah, I could see how that could be a good app to use. And if it's not already an idea that's out there, it's a great idea, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are looking for people like themselves who like to live an active and fit lifestyle. Where I think this app would be a good idea, though, is if you're looking for a training partner. So I'm not just talking romantically. I'm saying if you're like someone who goes to the gym regularly, like, man, I'd really like to have a training partner, someone who's consistent, someone who's going to hold me accountable, someone who can match my schedule. That to me might be a better idea, because you can find someone in your area and say, okay, well, let's compromise. I can work out at these times, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I'll work out on these times with you on Saturday, Sunday. So if you can fit my schedule, I'll fit your schedule, and we'll train together. We'll put a split together, and then you have that accountability, right? So I think that might be a good option too, because it's hard to really meet people in the gym who you can train with. I mean, it does happen, but these days everyone's got their headphones on and zoned in. So it's really hard to start up a conversation with someone and say, hey, you want to train together, right? So I could see where that app would come in handy there. But again, when it comes to dating, you're asking the wrong guy, because I don't use dating apps. And like I said, personally, I don't want to date someone who's in the fitness industry. I never have and probably never will. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Tuesday, February the 6th. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your diet, training, or supplementation, please feel free to email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Once again, I want to thank everyone for supporting the channel, supporting my business, supporting my online coaching app. And I really appreciate all the support, all the feedback I get from everyone. And yeah, if you ever do have any questions with regards to your nutrition, or you're looking for a training program and you're interested in working with an online coach, I have lots of availability on my online roster. You can download my coaching app. It's Forever Fit Performance. It's available on the App Store. All you have to do is send me a DM or email of your email address, and I'll add you onto the app, and you create a password, and you're good to go. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I will see you all next week. Bye for now.